Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. Let's get right into some space weather. We have a lot of stuff to talk about in this morning's update, so this will be kind of like an extended update. But let's get some space weather news first. Our solar wind speeds coming in at 308.2 with a density of 19.2. That's very thick, but again, we've talked about this before. Cosmic radiation amounts are, and the highly charged particles that come into our atmosphere during slower solar wind speeds will be a lot higher during like a 300, 200 type solar wind speed. But when you're talking about higher wind speeds, somewhere in the 500s and beyond, you're going to see single-digit density readings. Now, we are expecting some solar winds to pick up on the 25th, maybe the 26th. Could be some geomagnetic unrest over those next 2 days. But we're not expecting anything. This was that coronal hole that was in the northern part of the star that's now turning away from Earth. You do see a pretty large coronal hole that looks like a crack from the top to the bottom here to the middle of the screen. That, with the fact that we're looking at KP indices at 2, 24-hour max of 2, that could mean we could see a stronger earthquake on the way. We'll see. I'm not really 100% on that, but we've been getting a frequent 6.5s and 7.1s even without these kind of coronal holes. So there's obviously other things in motion here just besides solar activity. But these are usually indicators when you have Earth-facing coronal holes, KPs at 2 or lower, you can pretty much expect pretty moderate earthquake or maybe even some volcano action too. We haven't had a lot of talking about volcanoes lately, so they're kind of taking a quick little slumber before this grand solar minimum kicks all the way in. Spotless days, no, but we do have one sunspot, AR 2859. If you look to the left of the star here, that's technically the eastern limb, even though it's our left. But anyway, you'll see that big bright region there, and there's another one coming over the eastern limb as well. We'll have to look at that, but very small sunspot of sunspot number of 14. Cosmic radiation still high at 10% even. That is a 48-hour change of 0.7 though, so it's gone down here recently. The last show we did was on the 20th of August, and we had readings at 10.7. Heck, we got as high as 10.9. Now, what's relevant about what happened over the weekend in Waverly and what happened with Henri? And we'll get into that here in just a second. Let's go to our Grand Solar Minimum space weather page, where we like to show you fun things here on the solar page. There is our star, sunspots and coronal holes, solar wind, kind of flat. It's been below 300, guys, for the last couple of days. It's been very, very quiet on the sun over the last few days. Here's one of my favorite things. This helps us forecast sunspots. However, this is not being updated again. So we'll go to our SDO, and I'll show you how we might have another sunspot on the way. Let's pick this one. This one's always the best as far as contrast goes. So see that little area there off to your left? Let me get my handy dandy arrow, since we are having some issues with our long-term forecast. There's 2859. This is possibly 2860 as well. And the only reason why I'm even saying this could be a sunspot, we can already see the plasma loops here on beyond the eastern limb. Usually when you have this kind of puff out of the corona, that's an indication we got an active region here at least, and possibly for some sunspots. Now it does look small, just like this region here, so it could be another sunspot number of 14, 15 tops. But with that said, we do have the possibility of another sunspot. Now, how are we looking for sunspots being spotless from here on out? Not sure. You look at this image, and when you're in a maximum, you're going to have sunspots in this region and this region, okay? And this will be lit up. And right now, this is showing indications that we might be going through another active period. Remember, through July, guys, we had one day where we had 6 active regions at once on the sun. Everybody thought, oh boy, here comes global warming, blah, 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 this and that. And then all of a sudden, boom, it went quiet for August. And that's what happened. August has been very uneventful which is fine with me. I don't need solar flares or anything like that right now. But my point is that we've been seeing this pattern throughout solar cycle 25. We get a period of time of uptick activity, and then we kind of calm down afterwards for a little while. This cool down period that we just got through, which I feel like we're getting ready to get busy again, was very unique, if you ask me, because usually by this time in the solar cycle, you don't get too many spotless days moving forward. So it was kind of a surprise. We have surpassed 2010 on spotless days. 2010, coming out of the last minimum, was 51 days, spotless days. This time, coming out of this recent minimum, we're upticking towards the backs. Same spot that we were in 2010, but we're up 5 spotless days. Not a huge difference to say there's proof that 25 is going to be weaker than 24. That's not the proof I'm throwing at you. But it is indicating that things are on track to be just slightly the same or weaker in this solar cycle compared to 24. All right, let's get into what happened over the weekend. It was important to pay attention this past week to the cosmic radiation dosage rates. They steadily went up to the 9s, and then they just jumped up to 10.9%. That was on Friday. Before Friday, we had, and I said this in a broadcast, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday, but it's like the atmosphere is reloading. It's reloading, getting charged up, and let's see what happens with Henri. Well, we didn't see this, because this is a classic example of atmospheric compression. On top of that, our atmosphere is fluxed with tons of highly charged particles. See that explosion right there? That's what we call atmospheric compression. And look, it dumped a crap ton. And I've never seen a system that big for atmospheric compression and just the amount of rain. 17.2 inches of rain in 24 hours. Yes, the United States has jumped into that category of some people getting a year's worth of rain in one day. I don't know if this was a year's worth, but this was quite a bit. 17.2 inches of rain. Now, I'm watching the Weather Channel, which is, I guess, should be called the Comedy Channel from now on, because the Weather Channel says that this is due to rising temperatures across the globe. Okay, sure it is. I don't understand why they hide from the science of this, the silence of cosmic radiation affecting our atmosphere. But once again, atmospheric compression. How much rain did we get in Waverly? What were some of the totals? I'll tell you this, folks. When you see houses being moved off of foundations, I used to live in Middle Tennessee, Manchester to be exact, and which is a little bit further south of where this area is right here, closer to the Alabama border. But anyway, that's a lot of rain, 17.2 inches of rain. And that was in isolated spots. It's only showing 14 inches here in the center. But guys, come on. This has nothing to do with warming temperatures. Weather Channel also showed an interesting graph that's going to show us increased flooding for this area by 16% over the next 30 years. They didn't offer information to back that up. They just said that's going to happen. And they started showing us North Carolina sea rise is going to be incredibly high in 30 years. Mari shared a funny, it's funny to me, because it is. Space.com shared an article talking about sea rise is creating these so-called ghost forests. And folks, it could be further from the truth. There is no ghost forest because of rise of sea levels. Now, that being said, we are looking at what I said over the weekend. This happened now, Friday into Saturday into the weekend. Okay? Torrential rain continued throughout Saturday. For the river, at the Piney River, crested at about 31.8 feet. That's a record, or near. Yes, that's shattering the previous record, which was 12 feet. Do you see the difference? What 17.2 inches do? The record that was set in 2019 was 12 feet. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but we were still in the ground. In fact, we were at the bottom of the minimum. So you're asking yourself, Jake, how is it possible that we were at the bottom of a minimum and we only got 12 feet of cresting river versus the 31.8 feet we got now? Everything's different, but I do believe that the solar activity has a delay effect. So in other words, we've been building up all week with cosmic radiation dosage rates, and finally it just unleashed, and it did it here in Tennessee. So it's hard to say why it was not as strong in the deep part of the minimum versus now we're starting the uptick, and we just shattered the record, almost 3 times the record, folks. But this has a lot to do with cosmic radiation. Cosmic radiation, they are highly charged particles that are in our atmosphere that affects a lot of things. Volcano eruptions is one of them. Cosmic radiation going straight to the core, heating things up from below. And then we have these massive rain events and these massive snowfalls. This year, 2021, has been the year of getting the rain, of a year's worth of rain in 24 hours. It's been the year for that. We've seen it all over the world, not just here in Tennessee, but all over the world we've seen. Places in China got 25 inches of rain in 28 hours. Insane amounts of rain. 25 inches, folks. Folks don't get that in a year's time, let alone 2 years' time. And they got it in one day. And you keep asking yourself, well, this keeps happening more and more. It's because of global warming. That's what they're feeding you on the mainstream media. What they're not telling you is that there's these cycles called grand solar minimums, where solar activity does affect the climate. And right now, with all the cosmic radiation, the highly charged particles that are in the atmosphere from solar wind and other parts of our solar system here, all these highly charged particles are interacting with, that's right, water vapor and particulates already in the atmosphere. And think of cosmic radiation, highly charged particles, as steroids for raindrops and snowflakes. They really intensify the amount. And just depending on how flux we are in the atmosphere, well, we're pretty fluxed. Especially, now, I just answered my own question, folks. We were saying, why was it not so bad in 2019, but it is horrible here? Well, it's possible that dosage rates may not have been as high as they were over the weekend. Again, we averaged between 9.5%, 7% all the way to 11.5% during the minimum. And yeah, there were days where we saw cosmic radiation in the 9% readings. So I'll have to go and check it out just to be on the verification part. But I want to make mention too, they also said the last time they saw this kind of flooding, nowhere close to this, but similar, was back in 2017, thanks to Tropical Storm Harvey, right? Or them was Hurricane Harvey. Well, what also is happening in 2017? That's right, not grand solar, but a solar minimum. In 2017, we were declining into the minimum. 2021, we are coming out of the minimum. And I'd say 21 and 17 are at the same levels. I've been saying this all year. This feels like 2017, 2018, all over again. And I do believe that we are seeing proof of that right now with these crazy storms, this massive amount of rain. We're breaking way more records this year, though, than we were in 17. And that's just because the atmosphere is so fluxed. We have had so much cosmic radiation coming into our atmosphere for over 4 years now. It's bombarded. And the atmosphere is no longer able to hold it. And that is why we are seeing so much rainfall all over the world and here in the United States. Now, there's a lot more to talk about this. There were 21 deaths, over a dozen still missing. 22 deaths. The good news, if there is any good news from this, is that we've had over 40 missing, and now we're down to about a dozen, and the death toll has not rose as much as some expected. But they're still in the cleanup process. The pictures there are devastating. Folks' houses are being pushed off of foundations. That's a bad example because that's a trailer that obviously you would expect something like that, but there are tons of pictures of damage here. In fact, let's just go ahead and watch a little bit of this video. This is what we were dealing with. And then, you think a tornado came through town, right? Houses being moved around, cars in rivers. These cars were just floating around, folks, and when the waters receded. And it's amazing how quickly the waters did recede, thankfully, too, right? But you can see this is the kind of mess. That's going to take a long time. Do not be fooled by mainstream media. This is not from global warming. This is not a climate crisis emergency. This is what happens when you get too much rain at once. That's all. Waverly, Tennessee is not going to get floods like this every summer. They're not going to get, this is a once in a lifetime, hopefully, a once in a lifetime opportunity here in Waverly, Tennessee. We don't ever want to see something like this again, right? And I can't promise because I don't have a crystal ball, but at the same time, folks out there are going to want you to think that this is what happens with climate change. Look what's going on to our world. We got to stop emitting CO2. No, folks. These are those 1 in 1,000 year storms that you keep hearing about in the headlines. These 1 in 200 year storms, these 1 in 400 year storms. There's a correlation behind that. And we're living through one right now, guys. We are alive during a time of history that a lot of people can't talk. In fact, no one can talk about what happened 200 years ago. There's nobody around to give you firsthand experience. So you're living it. This is kind of what we expect from solar minimum, from grand solar minimums, extreme weathers, extreme rain events, just everything funky. The crop fields not doing their normal grow schedule, and then you have disasters like this that also impact communities, economies, and crops. I'm sure we'll get an idea if there are any cropland in this area, what kind of losses. It's total loss. If it was submerged underwater, I don't think you could even feed the cattle with that cord. It's tainted at that point, if I'm not mistaken. Who knows what's in these floodwaters? So, very, very, very important story that happened over the weekend. Guys, I'm here to tell you it was all cosmic radiation. It was the sun's fault. Don't believe the hype, as Chuck D said one time. And then we had Henri. And Henri was that. Henri. 11.75 inches of rain fell in Haines Falls, New York. Brooklyn, 9.85 inches of rain. Yeah, that's a lot of rain for New York City, folks. Sterling Forest, New York, 9.84. Oakland, New Jersey with 9.22. And Cranberry, New Jersey came in as well with 9 inches of rain. The cleanup is extensive. It's nowhere near as bad. Here we have a tree that fell onto someone's house during the winds. And this was the big war. Here's what we were going to talk about right there. Trees did not have to have hurricane force winds. Folks, we just got pounded by Fred. Lots of rain. The ground is already saturated. 5 days later, we have this system come through and drop another 11 inches of rain in some spots. Now, where I live, we were forecasted to get 3 to 6 inches. Folks, we didn't even get a trace. Thank you, because we have plenty of moisture up here. We have plenty of rain up here. The little bit of wind probably, and I'll tell you, the area I live in has a lot of trees. So any kind of gusty winds or anything like that would have definitely caused down power trees, down power lines. It would have been a mess out here. There's a huge amount of trees in this community up here. So I am blessed and thankful that this storm decided to take a quick right turn and did not get past Albany and stayed where it stayed. But some folks weren't so lucky. And I'll tell you too, Mari and I were keeping track of the power outages situation from this. And aside from we had a little bit of internet issues on Saturday, we didn't see that many power outages. And that's a good thing, because I think the state of New York was ready for a huge storm that would cause major problems across all over southern New York. And it really didn't. Now, 4.45 inches of rain in Central Park is a huge record. Again, that's a month's worth of rain in one day. That's huge. New York City saw about 1.94 inches of rain that fell between 10 and 11. So they got 2 inches of rain in an hour. Now, I won't blame all cosmic rays, okay? Tropical storm Henri was building up. It had lots of moisture in it from the tropics, Atlantic Ocean, and then it just kind of, everything came together and dropped it down. So this could have been a lot worse, because this storm did stall out in the south. So thankfully, Henri gets out of here with minimal damage. I have not heard of any loss of life yet. We had several rescues in New York, especially in the Long Island area, in Manhattan and New York City. But I have not heard of any fatalities just quite yet. So we dodged a bullet. And another thing that was strange about Henri was that it was a Cat 1, and a lot of folks expected it to stay a Cat 1 as it made landfall, and it did not. It did not keep its strength. So, really different stuff here this weekend. A lot of people out there, hell, one guy said this was going to be a benchmark hurricane. And swing and a miss on that one. That is not a benchmark hurricane. I try to stay away from predictions just for that reason right there. This person has actually been failed by nature a few times. His prediction of the benchmark earth or hurricane, and then just before that, he was predicting how Fred was intensification was getting stronger. It was going to be a really bad hurricane on the west coast of Florida, and of course, we know it didn't amount to anything, but it did drop a lot of rain. So that's just the weather business, folks. It's the one business where you can lie and get away with it and get to keep your job, I guess, right? All right, so let's keep going here. I wanted to show you guys this. I usually don't do this in the morning, but I want to show you this is the time of year for hurricanes to start to develop. So don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. It's not global warming. It's not climate change. This is the time of year that we see the increase of storms. I want you guys to pay close attention right here in southern Texas because you are about to see not one but two major systems potentially roll through. This is old, or this is pretty far out for the second one, but the first one is the first week of September. Notice where I've got my blue arrow. You're going to see this bad boy trudging through the Gulf here right about now. Through the Yucatan of Mexico, on next Sunday, August 29th, this coming Sunday. And then as it goes over the Gulf waters, it does intensify as it gets closer to landfall in Texas. Now, compared to this one, this is barely, I don't even know, the pressure on this is still at 1,000. But watch the rapid intensification here. And this is just from the 6Z model. That's the next clip there. So storm's pressure drops. Oh, I got diabetes eyes. The pressure drops about 20 on there. Hello. And it does intensify pretty rapidly. If you look here, it goes from like 1,008 to 991 millibars. Is that a hurricane? No. But August 30th, it drops again. The low pressure is just, this storm looks like it might stall. And if that's the case, look at all this rain that the GFS is predicting from this storm. This is about the same pressure as Henri. Nothing catastrophic here, folks. Check out that low pressure system above Minnesota, huh? Pretty wild. 980, it continues to drop into Tuesday. The indication of this storm being in the same spot now for 3 days. Heavy rain for 2 of those days. And by September 1st, not much movement. So this storm concerns me quite a bit. I'm sure there's flood areas and flood concerns, and also droughts in this part of Texas. But folks, here's another chance. And again, it just depends. We're still flux, tons of cosmic radiation in the atmosphere. This storm does not move out of Texas or start getting like it's going to move until September 2nd, almost into September 3rd. Plenty of rain, moisture coming through from this particular system as it reaches the Midwest and then goes into the Great Lakes after it's done. Look at that. So the remnants of that particular storm is going to be felt across Oklahoma through western New York. And by the September 4th, GFS thinks this will be a pretty strong low-pressure system that will be approaching, that's right, here in upstate New York and the rest of the Northeast. So we get about a week or so of break from heavy, heavy rain, and then it comes back in about a week or so. Also, look down in the Gulf. Once again, we have another storm in the same trajectory. This time, this storm is packing a little bit more punch, a little bit stronger as it approaches the Gulf. And it misses the same landfall just south of Texas. Now, you can see where the rain bands are. Southern Texas doesn't need this rain, and we could see another dose. There are areas that could receive double-digit raindrop falls within about a week. So we could see anywhere from 10 to 30 inches of rain in Texas, southern Texas, in just 2 storms. maybe more, because the first one is stalling out. Another system in the Atlantic, but it's going to peel away. And then at the end of this model run, you see, once again, another system trying to get its act together here in the Keys heading towards Florida. So listen, folks, it is September. This is the time of year where we need to pay attention to the tropics. That's all there is to it. We've got 3 potential storms coming up for the first 2 weeks of September, which is amazing. And believe it or not, we have been now through the entire hurricane season without one landfall from a hurricane yet. That's right. They've all dropped from Category 1 hurricanes before they made landfall. So this has got to be some kind of a first. Remember all that hype about mainstream media saying global warming is causing more extreme hurricanes? What is going on with that narrative? Because that's not happening. Remember how global warming people were telling you that more tornadoes are going to happen because of extreme weather? That has not happened. In fact, we are on a tornado drought, which I'm okay with that. Tornadoes are bad anyway. But the fact is that we've seen less hurricanes, we've seen less tornadoes, we've seen less powerful hurricanes, and we've seen less powerful tornadoes this year. Where is that narrative that everything is supposed to be getting worse because of global warming? It's not. It's not. Folks, just watch the news, watch the Weather Channel. Even though they lie to you and tell you what it is, you can see it for yourself. These are anomalies. These are record-breaking events. These are one-in-a-lifetime type storms that we're seeing here in Waverly. The odds of Waverly getting hit like this again are tremendously high. Not good at all. Not good at all. I shouldn't say tremendously high. They're tremendously low for them to happen again. It won't happen again. Not 17.2 inches. I could be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't like to make predictions. But trust me on this, folks. The conditions were just right here in Tennessee for that atmospheric compression to drop almost 20 inches of rain in 24 hours. So lots to watch here in the tropics. We need to pay a close eye on Texas, southern Texas. The border, Mexico just dealt with Grace. Now they're going to be dealing with our next system, which I'm not saying anything yet, but it does not look good. As we get to Sunday, August 29th, this storm just rapidly intensifies by Monday. It's here Monday, it's here Tuesday, and it finally moves out of here on Wednesday. Still raining in southern Texas, so 3 days of heavy downpours into Texas and Houston. We have a problem. That's you guys on Wednesday. So even though we're not going to be dealing with hurricane force winds, we're going to be dealing with a lot of rainfall in southern Texas of a period from September 1st through September 9th. So we could see some new records broken down in the southern part of the United States. All right, so let's check out our quick weather update for us the next 3 days. Check out our weather maps. You see there, just showers, pop-up showers across the United States. Definitely going to see some heat, though. Texas, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, the South, all over. We're going to see some extreme heat today, for sure. And then tomorrow, Wednesday. All right. Actually, that's Tuesday. Oh, that's Wednesday. All right, so Wednesday, more pop-up showers across the United States. Nothing major, no severe weather predicted, just rain showers across the country. Still pretty hot all the way from the Midwest to the South, all the way into the Northeast. It's going to be very, very warm up here as well. Severe weather a possibility with flash flooding also for Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin. They need the rain up there, and so does my friend Matt Bros in Nebraska. Hopefully he gets a little bit of shower activity as we go through the week here this week. And we are, like I said, we're winding down the summer. Unfortunately, I'm seeing all the school pictures, so hopefully your kids are back in school safely and had a great summer. Summer's not over yet, but it's sure starting to feel like it, that we're starting to see things wind down a little bit. Hopefully the heat starts to die down in the South. I know you guys have had some pretty grueling heat over the past several days. Southwest, you've been hot all summer. So we are getting to that point where it is getting closer and closer to fall-like weather. But guys, I'm going to do a full report. If not tonight, tomorrow we'll go more in depth, talk about Henri, some more information on Waverly, Tennessee as well. And I'm going to try to find you some more exact stats on cosmic radiation dosage rates from previous storms if I could dig that up quick enough. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you for tuning in to this Grand Solar Minimum News Update. Hope everyone has an awesome Tuesday, and we will talk soon.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.